My friend, welcome to the world's best kept secret podcast, the podcast that shows spiritual entrepreneurs how to clarify their message and then how to turn that clarity into revenue. I'm your host, Prima Joe, a mentor and message expert since 2020. Whether you seek to simply clarify your message or feel ready to monetize your brilliance, this is your safe space for actionable guidance and practical tools on how to turn your woo into predictable revenue. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome to today's conversation, and today we're going to talk about healing yourself. I have heard before that we're all healers. There's always like a healer in all of us, but I didn't understand it started to be in the spiritual world. I didn't understand that I had the ability to heal myself. So what we're going to talk about today is healing yourself. If you've been on meds, like my mom has been on meds for 25 years, chances are the medications have turned around and made you more sick, which I can see from just looking at my mom. She started meds 27 years ago, and now when I look at her, she's the result of the medication. She's not even ill anymore. She's just suffering from like the repercussions of medication. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the doctors and I like the hospitals and I like all the emergency facilities they provide. But I also understand that sometimes that route can really be something that ends up in a place that you don't like. And I'm very interested in my guest today because she has an alternative to that. What if there was a way to heal without being on 24 tablets like my mom is today? What if there was a way to heal yourself? I'm very keen with this guest today, one of our best kept secrets, because she has a background in medicine. She was a registered nurse. So she did that for a very long time and then crossed over now to the side where she's helping people heal themselves. So she has a very good blend of the medical side and the healing side, which gives us a very interesting character because she understands the system and now she's out of the system. Before I get ahead of myself, I want to introduce you to Sarah Dawkins, the creator of Heal Yourself, who's going to be talking to us about all things healing yourself, all things listening to your body, all things becoming your own doctor, if I can say that. So tune in if you know anyone who has chronic illness, anyone who needs to listen to this conversation. Now is the time to press share and have them sit with us, because the only way that Sarah Hopkins stop being a secret is if we press that button and use the share button. Pull your stool, pull your tea, and let's have a conversation. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Prima. It's lovely to be here with you.
As I was doing my intro, what did I leave out that is so key to the work you do that without that part, we would be building on sound? What did I forget to tell the listener right now about the work you do, who you are, and how you came to this point? What did I forget?
That I don't think you forgot anything. I help people who want to get off medicines. I help people who don't want to start medicines, and I help people who want to stay healthy and don't want to get sick.
Can you explain to me the extent to which you do this work? This is preventive? I don't want to be sick, so I'm going to use healing to heal myself. Is it I've tried everything else and I can't seem to find something that works? Or is it I am in this kind of medicine, but I also would love to know how I can heal myself? Like, what is the place where you play the most? Like, who are your people?
Most of my clients tend to already be sick and be on medicines. So they are looking to heal themselves and come off the medicines. I do have a few clients who have a diagnosis and don't want to start medicines. And I've had also a handful of clients who don't want to get sick. So they are being proactive, looking at what they can do for themselves to stop themselves getting sick. So it's all the whole length of that spectrum, from being healthy and staying healthy along the spectrum of getting sick and becoming chronically sick.
What drove you to this work? I'm just curious, like, what's the story?
So as you've rightly said, I was a registered nurse for 20 years. But during my journey, one of my nurse colleagues actually questioned my use of pharmaceuticals at home. That's how we heal. That's how I was raised. When you're sick, you go to a doctor, you get a pill and you're healed. So I went off and did lots of research and started finding people who'd healed themselves, started seeing that with small lifestyle tweaks that we can change the impact on our own health, and that being proactive, we can do a whole range of different things to stay healthy. But those things are also the things that we do to heal as well. The 4 pillars of health, as I've devised, the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual, we need to address all of them to not just stay healthy, but also to heal ourselves when we're sick.
I like that you're touching about the 4 pillars. I think you call them the 4 pillars of health. And you say everything is connected. I would like you to kind of dig a little bit deeper and enlighten us about how everything is connected and how these pillars actually work. How is my physical, emotional, mental, spiritual connecting to my chronic illness? Can you help me understand that, Sarah?
Yes. We are a whole human being, full of systems, and every system is interconnected. Our mind is connected to our body, our heart is connected to our circulatory system, which is connected to our lungs, and every organ, every vessel, every muscle, every bone, everything within us is connected to something. There's nothing that functions in isolation. When we have a problem in one area, it affects different areas of our health. So in modern medicine, for whatever reason, the doctors have separated all that out. So now we have a heart specialist, a lung specialist, a skin specialist, a circulation specialist, a nerve specialist. But nobody's looking at the impact of their own specialism on the whole of the rest of our body and how it all impacts and integrates together. So we need to look at health as holistic, which is bringing together all of our systems, our muscles, our tissues, all of our cells, literally bringing it together and treating us as a whole, not saying, here's a heart, how do I heal the heart? What does that heart impact and what impacts that heart? So we have to look at health and healing as holistic. And that's how I devised the pillars of healing, because most of us tend to look in the physical. And if I'm honest, that's where I started because of my background. So I looked at, how can I nourish myself? How can I get a bit more exercise, hydrate more and sleep more? And that's where I started because that's what I knew. As I did more and more research, I realized that we can absolutely improve ourselves by dealing with those physical parts of us. But then we need to also deal with the mental parts of us. And I realized this when I spiraled down into depression with suicidal thoughts. I realized I needed to take care of my mind. And that looks like simple things like practicing gratitude, meditation, mindfulness, being in this moment now rather than our mind going back to the past or forward to the future. We need to calm down our mind with those techniques. But also we need to stimulate our mind. So learning a new craft, doing a jigsaw or a crossword, or even learning a new language, those stimulate our minds in good ways. And then during the meditation, I realized there was a spiritual part of it, which basically means coming back to that voice inside of us. It's not about religion, but it can be for people who are religious. But for people who aren't, it's about that voice inside of us, whatever name you give to it. Some people call it inner wisdom, higher self, the universe, the spirit, the angels. Other people call it God. The name matters not, but what we need to do is reconnect back with that inner voice. And it wasn't until I did my coaching training, I realized the final piece of the jigsaw was the emotional part of it. And that is the biggest part of our health. And that really is to do with our past. We have to be able to acknowledge, accept, come to terms with, to be able to forgive and let go of whatever's happened in our past. It's not about forgive and forget, but as we forgive, the memories fade. It's about our community. Are we amongst people who support us, who like us for who we are, and being authentically us? So, and that is another journey as well, part of the emotional aspect. Who are we authentically? Because most of us wear this mask, if you like, to become somebody that we think other people want us to be, to please other people. So if we can forgive our past and find out who we are authentically and join communities, build communities, whether it's physical, locally, or whether it's online, but with like-minded people that boost us up, that energize us, rather than being with people who drain us. So once I realized all those four pieces of the jigsaw, I devised the 4 pillars of health, which is also used for healing. And if we address all of those, we can absolutely heal ourselves without medicines.
That's interesting. So explain to me what causes illness. Like, why do people get sick? When you explain the physical, it's like, I see myself with a disease. And then I'm like, okay, I need to go to the hospital. But you're saying maybe what's causing that is the mental, like what's happening in your brain. Maybe it's the emotional part. Maybe it is the spiritual part. So what causes chronic illness in your world? Like, how do you see chronic illness? What brings it, or what makes it worse? Or what are we missing?
Where's it coming from?
Yeah, like what are we missing with, like, just chasing the traditional way of doing things and taking tablets, and then now I have cancer, now I have this thing. Like, what are we missing in that process?
The biggest part of that is people's beliefs. So my own beliefs was I need a doctor and a medicine to heal. That was how I was raised. I went into medicine because I wanted to help people to heal. And that was my belief around healing, that we need these. When I started doing my research and started seeing physical results, I healed psoriasis, acid reflux, and eczema all in about a month by tweaking my diet and increasing my exercise and de-stressing. So I started to see physical, tangible results in my own body from what I was doing, what I was changing. So do I still believe we need medicines? Yes, in accidents and emergencies. Do I believe if I break out in psoriasis again, I need a medicine or a steroid cream? No, absolutely not. I've healed it without. Do I believe my body heals itself? Yes, I do. And previous to doing all this research and being challenged, I didn't. I believed I needed the doctors and medicines. But if we take it down to a simple form and say, if we get a cut, a graze, or a bruise, do we start thinking, I need to go to a doctor? I don't know how to heal this. I need a pill, a medicine, a cream. No. We know that our body will heal those. So if our body heals those, why can it not heal the bigger things like multiple sclerosis, like autoimmune, like chronic pain? It absolutely can. We just need to support it so that it can be more effective in its healing. So the first and foremost thing that we are missing is, what does that person believe? Because if they believe they need a doctor and a pill, and that is their core belief, then they're never going to heal without that. But if they can unpick that like I did and find research and people healing themselves, they can start to believe it. If they speak to people and know of people who've healed themselves, they can start to see it. It starts to become real. But for the most of us, and myself included, till I was 41, my belief was set in stone in my mind that I need a doctor and a pill to heal, until I was challenged. And the thing about our beliefs is they tend to run us. They run our lives from our subconscious 95% of the time. So if we don't know what our beliefs are, we're just running our life on autopilot, not understanding the behaviors that we have, the actions that we take, the thoughts that we have, because they're subconscious. So when we're challenged, and our challenges make us look at what am I feeling? What's the belief behind that feeling? Where has that belief come from? Is it mine? How did I get that belief? We can start unpicking that belief to find out, does it work for me now? Is that really what I believe? Or have I borrowed that from my caregivers, my parents, when I was young, and just never, ever challenged it or even made it conscious, because our beliefs tend to hide in our subconscious mind.
That's really good. So I have eczema. Explain to me in your philosophy what I could do to heal myself.
Sorry, just say that again. You froze.
I have eczema as a person, and I believe I can heal myself, but I don't know how to heal eczema. So in your world of how things work, help me understand what I could be doing differently with my eczema right now that I'm not. I can see mom has like 24 tablets a day. So I can work out that if she took less medicine, she'll be stronger and more awake and all of the things. So I can see that if she was to do some emotional stuff and some, like if she was to do all the things that you listed here, would have her healthy and off most of the mess. But I'm looking at myself now and I'm like, okay, I have eczema. Okay. What am I missing that I have not yet healed it? Doesn't make sense. Like, if I have a simple situation like eczema, how in your world would I think about it to help myself heal?
Let go of owning it. It's not your eczema. A lot of people say my eczema, my diagnosis, my depression, my fibromyalgia. It's not ours. When we say that and call it mine, our subconscious mind goes, oh, it's mine. I don't want to lose it. I'm going to hold on to that tightly. So that stops us healing it. So if we can let go of the owning of it. So it's you have eczema, you don't own the eczema. And then we need to look at what is the message behind the symptoms. Why does your body need to produce eczema? What is going on? And part of an underpinning of eczema is dairy. Dairy and gluten feed eczema and psoriasis and skin problems. Part of it also is liver function. The liver is a bit sluggish. But there's also a message in the eczema. What is it? Why does your skin need to erupt and then itch to make you scratch? What is the message in that? So there's emotional work to do. Emotional work to do around the message, and there's physical work to do around nutrition to stop feeding that and to support your liver.
I don't know that it's anything to do with what I eat, because my body can't stand dairy and all of the things that you said, I can't stand them. So I wouldn't take them even if I wanted to, because my body just can't stand them. But it's interesting when you say, why does your body need, because it's just on the face as well, like, why does your body feel the desire to peel off or to do what it's doing? Which brings me to the messages, because you said every symptom that you have about anything is the body speaking, but most people never listen to the body. Can you take us there and give us a picture of what that looks like? Because most people, when they have a headache, they take headaches. When they have a cough, they take a syrup. when they have another thing, they go to the hospital. But you're saying the body is speaking, you need to listen. Can you educate us more about that?
Yeah. Every symptom is a manifestation of a thought or a belief in our subconscious mind. So we have to dig into that to understand what our body is trying to tell us through the symptom. So the headache could be in the physical plane. It could be dehydration. So when we drink more, the headache subsides. It could also be in the physical plane with maybe lack of sleep or frustration or overwhelm or burnout. All of those in the physical plane will feed a headache. It could also be in the emotional realm, as in, I need you to stop and rest. So I'm going to throw this pain out in your head, which will make you definitely slow down in the hope that you might stop. But as you've said, it's so easy in Western medicine to think, well, I'll just take a pill and carry on. So we stop listening to our body. And when that happens, our body will find a different way to express that symptom. And each expression gets larger and larger. So it might be a headache, it might be an upset stomach, then it might be chronic pain, then it might be fibromyalgia or ME or autoimmune or thyroid problems. So as we don't listen to our body, the symptoms become more and more magnified.
It's like the body gets louder and louder and louder. So if I were at a point where I have chronic illness after chronic illness, like my mom, she's been on meds for 27 years. And right now, I really believe that what she's struggling with is less of anything but the medicines over time. What are like the steps? Like, how could I begin to think differently if I've been on meds for my entire lifetime? And I'm like, if there's a chance to heal, I think I need to pay attention to this, because I have tried maybe many things and I don't see the kind of lasting results that I want. So what would you say is like step 1 to step 2 to like, what should I stop doing to see a change maybe this week?
First of all, access your beliefs. What do you believe? Do you believe you can heal? Do you believe your body is punishing you for something? Because a lot of people that believe that. Do you believe your body is broken? Do you believe you're special and that everything you've tried hasn't worked because you're special? Because at the end of the day, we're all special. And our beliefs impact whether we can or whether we can't heal. So there's a subconscious belief underneath that. And accessing our beliefs isn't always easy. We can when we're triggered, for sure. But we have to really sit down and think about what do we believe and why do we believe it and where does that belief come from? So if we can get past all of that and think, I want to heal, I believe I can heal, I'm as special as anybody and everybody else because we're all special, but access the wisdom in the symptoms. What are my symptoms telling me? What is my body trying to say? And some people can sit down and just be quiet and ask that inner voice, what is it that you need? How can I support you? Other people know, and it can be things like, I need to move house, I need to leave my job, I need to separate from my partner, I need children, I want children, I want some time to myself. It can be a whole range of different things. And deep down, a lot of people already know that. But then it can be more subtle, like, I need to be heard, I need to be seen, I need to be valued. And that's coming from the emotional aspects of whatever happened in our childhood, that we built walls around ourselves and coping mechanisms. So it's trying to understand our body. And the other thing is, we can't fight an illness. You hear people saying, I'm fighting this disease, I'm a wellness warrior, and I'm struggling, and using like war type words. And if we use those war type words, again, our subconscious mind thinks we're at war. So we'll propagate that war because it's listening to us. We can only heal from a place of love. And for some, loving themselves is challenging because they might never have felt love in their life. They might not know what that looks like. And for others, loving a part of them, maybe an amputation or a diseased limb or a disfigurement or a scar. It's about loving the parts of us that we've struggled to love. When we can come back in and start loving ourselves for who we are, because who we are is a product of everything that we've been through, as well as our belief system. So if we can challenge that and come back in and learn to love ourselves for who we are, that's a huge step forwards in our own healing.
So access the beliefs that you have, listen to your body, and try to see what the message is.
Yeah.
Ruthlessly try and love yourself for all the parts, the good and the bad and the ugly. I'm just wondering on point number one, like, what if the beliefs are not even in my awareness? What if they're in the, like, in the sub? What if I am on auto? Like, is that like get help?
If for a lot of people, they're on autopilot and they're not sure what their beliefs are. So it's when I'm working with clients, I just have a compassionate conversation around themselves, their upbringing, their life, and quite often their beliefs will come through in the way they tell their story. So it's about helping them to see, to recognize what their beliefs are, but also asking quite direct questions to find out what challenges them, what makes them feel uncomfortable, and then they can dig into that. Why do they feel uncomfortable? And support them in a loving, compassionate way. But it's self-evaluation, it's self-assessment for the clients so that they can understand themselves more and become more self-aware. The more self-aware we are, the better we're able to heal because we understand ourselves.
So number one is access your beliefs or get interested in who you are, get self-aware, get interested in yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
And then number two is listen a little bit, like get more interested in your body. What is your body saying?
Yes.
And then there was one why you said that there is a knowing that you have, and maybe you're ignoring that. So a way to tune into the knowing that you have, that inner guru in you that just knows, like that instinct that says, yes, I know. You may not take me seriously now, but I know, like, I just know that this thing is going down that way. And then unconditional love for yourself.
Absolutely.
What did I miss there?
No, you didn't miss anything. Unconditional love and not being at war with yourself, and don't own that disease. Love yourself for who you are, and you might have a symptom. And another part of that diagnosis, actually, I don't work with people with diagnoses per se, because when we take on board a diagnosis, it's like installing a computer program. Here's a diagnosis. Thank you. I'll install that. With that diagnosis, here's all the beliefs I have around that diagnosis. I'll install that. So we tend to install all this information into our brain, and we don't tend to challenge it because it's come from a doctor. So if we can just look at the symptoms rather than the diagnosis, what symptoms do I have in my body, and let go of the diagnosis. So like eczema, for example, I have a rash, I have an itch, my skin is dry and flaking. Don't name it, just look at what is the symptom. And then you can look at what is underpinning that symptom. Why does my body need to produce that symptom?
That's interesting. What else did we miss out that is so key to this conversation, Sarah?
How is my past showing up in my present? And that is the emotional aspect of it, because quite often there's an element of I'm not worthy, I don't feel seen and heard and validated, I haven't got the confidence, I'm too much, I'm too loud, I'm too quiet. All those things we think about ourselves is quite often it's the ideas have come from our childhood. When we berate ourselves in our head and tell ourselves off and call ourselves names, yes, it's our voice in our head, but actually the words are from our teachers, our caregivers, our parents when we were young. So assess the words that you're using about yourself to yourself.
The beliefs you have around who you are. I've had people saying, I'm a failure. I am these things.
Yes.
I am these things. In the same sentence, I've had people saying, I'm a fighter. I'll fight the disease, which is like, don't fight. So you're saying that don't fight the disease. Okay.
No.
What else have we left out that is so key to healing yourself that people need to hear?
Being able to forgive. I know I've touched on it, but being able to forgive the people in your past. But conversely, heal people. Because when I suffered from depression for 3 years, I was such a victim. I'm like, look at me, look at what's happened to me. It's all those people's faults. They've done this to me. They've put me in this awful place. And I sat in that because I didn't know. But don't live there like I did for so long. Look at it. So you're looking at a victim, you've got a narrow lens. If you can then start broadening that lens and saying, what is the lesson or the blessing that's coming from this? And for me, that going through those 3 years actually changed my life trajectory. And I feel a lot more aligned now doing the work I'm doing than the work I did as a nurse. And yet all my life, I only ever wanted to be a nurse. And that was why I went into depression, because I was not feeling at ease. The job I was doing didn't feel like it was nourishing my soul like I thought it would. So understand what it is that you really want and what the lesson, the blessing, the messages in the symptoms. Why are they showing up in your body? And be really honest with yourself.
I like what you're saying, because it's really saying choose curiosity over victimization, choose curiosity over blame, choose curiosity above all, because curiosity can heal all. So I really like what you're saying, because there's a lot of things that we may or may not know, and choosing curiosity and awareness and saying, okay, I want to be interested in myself and how I am showing up and what may be causing that. I think it's a very powerful mental flame to be in, because we don't even know. Some things happen and we never know until we're like, okay, I don't know everything. I'm very curious. Why am I triggered by that? I'm very curious. Why do I have that identity? I am very curious. Why did cancer choose me? Like, I am very curious. Why is this person showing up? Instead of saying, oh, that guy and that guy and that guy. Maybe it's like, all right, Prima, like, why do you seem to have issues with men? You know, like taking the ego out of the equation and saying, all right, Prima, like, why? What's the common multiple factor here? Let's take a look in the mirror. I think it's very hard, though, to do that. It takes some level of, I don't know what, to just sit and look in the mirror and say, I am.
Can we say challenging? Sorry, can we say challenging rather than hard? Because if our subconscious mind hears hard, it's like, oh, that's way too hard. I'm not even going to try that. But if we say it's challenging to do that, well, we can overcome a challenge.
See, I'm now getting mental reframing. I think it can be challenging to look in the mirror and say, Prima, you are the solution to all these problems. And not blame anything else, anybody else, Really cool. Tell me about the book. I know you've written a book. Tell me more about the book and where we can find it.
Thank you. So my book, Heal Yourself, started with my own journey because, for 41 years, I lived in the medical model. So suddenly I started changing my beliefs, finding people who'd healed, seeing people who'd healed, which helped me to change my beliefs. And on my own healing journey, I healed a whole lot of different health problems that had been ongoing on and off for my whole life. And I wanted to help other people to see that it was possible, like myself, because it was so mind-blowing. And I did that. And then this little voice on my shoulder said, "Who are you? You're not an author. What do you think you're doing?" So I put it away for 5 years because that voice was quite powerful. And one day I woke up and like, so this book has got to be written, and it's got to include lots of other people who've healed lots of other health problems. So I reached out on the internet and social media. People have healed motor neuron disease, or ALS as they call it in America, multiple sclerosis, a wide variety of autoimmune, allergies, asthma, chronic pain, a whole range of different health problems. And they've all healed them naturally themselves without pharmaceuticals. I've got a couple of people who were on pharmaceuticals that finally stopped. I have people who've healed cancer, who've healed Lyme, and they all write how they've healed. And for me, it's about helping other people to see that, you can heal yourself. We have all healed ourselves. If we can do it, it's possible for you too. So my book was born of my own suffering and other people's. And I published it on Amazon, and it's also available in America in Barnes and Noble in the English version.
It looks like an interesting book. I'm looking at the book. I know you have a podcast called Heal Yourself, but
Yes.
what is the best place that the person who wants to learn more about the ability to heal themselves can go? Like, what's your best place where people can start? Where should I start if I'm like, I want to know all about it, Sarah? Tell me more, all about it. Like, where should I go?
Read my book, join my podcast, listen to my podcast, so you can read and hear people and see people who've healed themselves, so you can see tangible results and hear what they did. Ask people, your friends, your family, if they've healed something and how they've healed. Believe in your own ability to heal. And then on your journey to your own healing, pick one small thing, whether it's out of the physical, the mental, the emotional, or the spiritual pillar that I've devised. It doesn't matter. Just pick one small thing and do that. Do 30 days of changing that one small thing in your life. Because if you look at it as big picture, it can be quite overwhelming. But if you just pick one small thing, something that you know that you can do, and do that, and in doing that, when we affect our physical, we affect our mental. And when we affect our mental, we affect our physical, because it's intertwined. So whether you're doing mental health work to affect your physical body, or physical work to affect your mental health body and your emotional body, it doesn't matter. Find one thing that you can do and do more of it.
I really love the way that you look at the world. Like, I think all these things begin with the decision to get yourself another pair of lenses. Otherwise, we were brought up, conditioned, taught things, and now we can decide to take that with us to the end, or we can decide to unlearn and learn what we want. What I found with the world of self-healing is that it's a decision to unlearn and start all over again. And like, what have I learned? What do I believe? What do I want to be? Like, what is it that I want to actually have? Like, I always look at it like an operating system. So there's an operating system that has been put, configured in our bodies from our mom, our teacher, our surroundings, our society. All the things that happened have made us who we are. But we have a choice. This is an invitation to say, is that programming helping you, or do you want to cut out and see how you can have a new operating system for yourself? I really appreciate you coming on the show, Sarah. What is it
Thank you.
What is it we have missed out this one thing like this that might be so key to somebody in our conversation? Is there anything that you want to bring up at this moment which you feel like, oh, I wish we touched that thing? Anything at all?
The only thing I would say, Prima, is that, as you've rightly said, we've got choices in life. So if we make choices now to live our lives in a healthy way, to look after our mind, body and soul, that in itself will help us to not become as sick as we might have been if we don't look after ourselves. But it can also stop us from becoming sick. It's about understanding that every thought, every action, every behavior that we have is either feeding a disease or preventing a disease. And we have that choice. So it's easier to be proactive to prevent the disease starting than it is to be reactive. But that's not to say we can't be reactive, obviously, because that's where most of my clients lay. But a small ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as they say. So do whatever we can. Think of it as not a short-term diet or a quick fix, because that's what Western medicine is. It's a pill, a quick fix, and you don't have to change anything. We have to take responsibility, and we have to start making those small changes to look after ourselves and think of it as a choice. It's a health choice. You know, we can always make more money, but we can't always get more health, more time. And our health is really where it's at. It's not about the money. Our health is worth more than all the money in the world.
In concluding this conversation, I want to invite you to take a pause and think about the one person that could use this message. Who is the one person that if they landed on this message, their life would never be the same? This podcast is about that. Who can you think about that if they learn to heal themselves, their life would never be the same? Who do you know that needs this message? Who do you know that is struggling with chronic illnesses? Who do you know that just has health troubles and could use some relief? I know my mom, and everything I've learned, I'm going to have to think, how does it apply to her? Who do you know that has the ability to sit on this conversation and change their life? Now is the time to press share and drop it in their messages wherever you talk to them. And you just have to say, I watched this conversation and I thought about you. Hope it helps. That's all you have to do. And before you know it, you will have helped one life change. 2, if the person who you sent this message to does something that is something that can multiply, that we can never stop, that's like a ripple effect. And that ripple effect is going to take Sarah and move her from being a best kept secret to being in the hands of those people that her message exists to serve, the lives that she exists to change. So if you're in this podcast, it's because you're the vessel for the message. So my humble request for you in helping the calling on my heart and the calling on Sarah's heart is that you join us and help us move this message to just one person whose life can be transformed by it. That's my humble request on every podcast I do, and that is my humble request for Sarah's interview today. Sarah, what are your final remarks? Would you like to leave us with some words of wisdom?
Yes, the biggest thing that we can do is look at what stresses us. Because what stresses us, the stress that we feel is because we want to either become responsible for it or try and control it in some way. And we can't. We can only control ourselves. We have no control or responsibility for anything or anyone outside ourselves. So the next time you're feeling stressed, stop and ask yourself, why am I feeling so stressed? What is it about this situation, this person, this event that's causing me the stress? What are my thoughts around that? Because it's our thoughts that around that situation that causes the stress. And then understand that if we can't control anything, come back into ourselves and understand that we're not responsible for it, we can't control it, and find a way to be able to let that go, because stress is a killer and it causes inflammation and it can cause a whole host of different diseases and diagnoses. So if we can understand what causes us our stress, coming from our thoughts, change the way we frame it, and come back into ourselves to be able to let go, we will make our whole lives a lot happier and healthier.
That was it from Sarah Dawkins. If you would like to connect further with Sarah, grab her book. I see it's in many languages. So I'm sure that wherever you're listening from, there will be a book in your language. Heal Yourself from Sarah Dawkins. She also has a podcast called Heal Yourself. So wherever you are, I don't know what platform you're on, Google her, Sarah Dawkins, Heal Yourself. See what comes up. Appreciate you showing up. Appreciate you taking the time to make yourself better, to learn, to improve, to heal, and all of the things. Because this podcast really presents the education that I believe that the school system did not give us. All the things that we do on this podcast is the things that go beyond the systems and the math and the science and the degrees and all of the things, like what the school system, in my opinion, should have, but didn't teach us. This is a school for you. If you want to learn the workings of the mind, the workings beyond the obvious. And I want to celebrate you for your curiosity and for being on the show and for sharing these messages. I appreciate you, and I'll see you another time. Thank you, Sarah, for being our guest. We appreciate you. Cool.
And you.
A free conversation. Until next time, please remember that there's no prize in keeping your work a secret.